We're back for the first game with Red-Black Rakdos Midrange. Gonna do a little bit of a replay for this video, see how it goes. Trying a little bit of different content on the channel, but starting out, we are unfortunately on the draw. And taking a look at this opening hand, the one concern with it, besides the fact that I realized that my 61st card was in the main deck instead of in the sideboard because, well, I didn't quite translate things correctly, or transition the list correctly. So 2 lands, a little bit, could be potentially a bit of a problem. Our opponent mulligans to 6. We keep this hand, see what happens. Great. Their turn 1 play, mountain go. We draw down the bugbear, pass, so our land problem is taken care of. Opponent plays a land and passes. We draw a Thoughtseize that we probably should have cast here, but our opponent goes Reckless Stormseeker. So we can't really kill anything here, and Thoughtseize might have broken up this curve a little bit. When I'm seeing red and red, I'm thinking we're up against mono red, but it turned out we were up against Gruul. So, slight misplay on my part. Opponent gets in some points of damage as a result. We go ahead and I presume stomp on the end step just to use our mana. We play Bone Crusher Giant to clog up the board a little bit. Our opponent goes War. Crowan War. And I do believe at this point I conceded because, well, we're just going to be too far behind, getting smashed, and we have no actual removal in our hand. So maybe a bit of premature concession, but our opponent, despite not having a mana dork, had an excellent start and got to guess a little bit here. All right, taking a look at sideboarding. One thing I note with this is I believe in actual tournament Magic, this is not legal sideboarding. But for some reason in MTGO, it allowed me to do it. So, not sure on that. Sideboarded out the Hisugu because it doesn't really do anything. Sideboarded out a couple copies of Thoughtseize and the Croxes. We brought in the Abrades and the Extinction Events, a couple of the Extinction Events, and I think the Pithing Needles to fight the vehicles. So we sideboarded out 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 cards, brought in 5 cards, one or two Extinction Events, the 2 copies of Pithing Needle, and a copy. Oh, we also boarded out Graveyard Trespasser. So it seems like we brought in a lot of stuff. We brought in, we would have brought in Pithing Needles, Abrades, 2 of the Extinction Events, the copies of the vehicle that I'm blanking off the top of my head, Bankbuster, as well as that, mainly stuff that plays to the board. Yes, I'd like to be on the play. The first hand was a bit of a mulligan. Here we have Pithing Needle, Bankbuster, Dreadbore, obviously named Pithing Needle on Asika's Chariot. While Sky Sovereign might be the correct choice, I think Chariot is more likely is a little bit more frequent in these lists. So we go ahead and play down Bankbuster as opposed to holding up a Braid. Our opponent goes turn 2 Werewolf Pack Leader and passes. We play Den, use Dreadbore main phase to kill that, wanting to hold on to the Abrade. Normally we would prioritize using Abrade over Dreadbore because Dreadbore can kill more creatures, but in this matchup where vehicles can be relevant, feels like it's worth holding on to that. Play that, play the Fable out, pass the turn. Once again, using our mana as efficiently as possible. Would have used Bankbuster possibly to draw if we hadn't hit a land drop, but our opponent, Boseju's our thing, continues to ramp us. We are a little bit lower on resources, but our opponent is stumbling a little bit in terms of lands. So, you know, the misfortune we had in game 1, we're kind of offsetting here. We play another Fable the Mirror Breaker, pass the turn. Can we continue to get ahead on mana? They're ahead of us on cards, but we have ways to convert things into cards. So, we pass. We draw Dreadbore, discarding nothing. Go ahead and draw. Get another land. Go ahead and Dreadbore this. Once again, prioritizing holding the Abrade due to vehicles in their deck, especially Sky Sovereign. Punching in for 2 damage. Once again, getting very much ahead on mana. And our opponent continues to fumble a little bit. We start firing up our creature lands a little bit. I misplay there, but we get in for some damage. Should have hit our opponent for 6 here instead of 2, but I think we're starting to get far enough ahead at this point that we're just going to kind of overwhelm them, especially as we get the Reflection Blood Tithe Harvester going on. Their deck doesn't generally play a lot of removal, and we just have the ability to, we Thoughtseize, see their hand. If they ever get things online, we're in a lot of trouble, as you see. Their hand is quite powerful, a couple of Obliterating Bolts, a couple of Crone Wars, Asika's Chariots. You know, we just kind of took over the game, but their hand had a lot of power. If they would have hit their land drops, it would have been a much closer game, if not possibly in their favor. Let's get in, taking a look at sideboarding, kind of keep things the same way. And go ahead and hit play here. Taking a look at our opening hand. This hand's probably a mulligan, simply due to the number of lands in our hand, although with Fable it might have been a keep. Not sure what I did with this hand. I guess we ended up mulliganing it to a hand of Pithing Needle, Bone Crusher Giant, Power Word Kill, Shieldred. This is a very powerful hand if we happen to draw lands. Opponent leads on Shaper's Sanctuary. Definitely a difficult card to beat. Pithing Needle, Naming Chariot again. We go ahead. Our opponent plays out a Mana Dork. Plays out another Mana Dork. We do stomp them to slow them down just a little bit, even though they're drawing cards. Not the best place to be when their opponent has Shaper's Sanctuary in play, but it is a card that could be difficult to beat. Opponent's got a Chariot. We pass, or they pass. We play, I'm presuming, we play Fable here. I didn't correct to play Bone Crusher Giant, but I think we needed to get the card selection going on. Really needing to dig towards Extinction Events in particular. Opponent bashes in for 5. They play an Elf. We discard a couple of lands, draw a land and a Bone Crusher Giant. Play a Bone Crusher Giant to stabilize the board a little bit potentially. The only thing they can really attack with on this board without trading is the Lair of the Hydra. Well, they cast the Bone Crusher Giant, pass the turn, and we draw. Flip the Bone Crusher. We cast Shieldred to further lock down the board. So now definitely the only thing they can attack with is good old-fashioned Lair of the Hydra. And it looks like they're getting ready to do just that. So we'll take a chunk for, what, 5 or 6 here. Not sure why they hold open the 1 mana. Doesn't seem to be too much that they could have here that would... they just cast an Elf, sure. We draw, gain some life. Just hold up mana here, hold up all of our interaction. Possible I should have cast a Bone Crusher Giant. Lovestruck Beast, obviously, a little bit notable for what it can do. We make a copy of a Bone Crusher Giant and pass. We draw another land, attack with Bone Crusher. They just take it, even though they could easily, you know, block with Lovestruck Beast or something. We continue to chip away at their life total. Opponent's kind of forced to take action. So opponent fires up the old Lair of the Hydra. Fires in with Lair and a Lovestruck Beast. We kind of take advantage of the fact that they're putting so much in things. And ironically, one thing I don't think our opponent quite realized here is us targeting their creatures and them drawing cards is dealing them damage with Shieldred. So Shieldred, I think, was single-handedly the MVP. Well, it and Fable the Mirror Breaker providing us with an endless chump blocker for Lovestruck Beast. I should have really just targeted their face, and they would have been dead next turn either which way, as I don't think Gruul has too many ways to gain life at instant speed. You know, we go ahead, really don't have to do anything. If they can't answer the Shieldred in some way, Obliterating Bolt doesn't do it because it's only 4 damage. Would kind of require 2 different cards for them, and they concede without us having to put Bone Crusher Giant Stomp on the stack, but they were dead regardless. So, interesting win. you know, game number 1 was kind of a whitewashing against us. Game number 2, they got stuck on lands, and then game number 3, I think we had a little bit more of a fair game, but they kind of flooded out a little bit without seeing, you know, the boat, so to speak. If they would have seen that, we probably would have been in a lot of trouble. But, you know, we did have a power word kill, and Fatal Push may have been drawn in time to deal with the Lair of the Hydra. And obviously our opponent did have some of their key sideboard cards, one of their key cards against us, but we did have one of our key sideboard cards, and, you know, Shieldred kind of carrying the day. Alright, we're back for match number 2. We are on the play for this match. Taking a look at our opener, 2 lands, a couple Fatal Pushes, Bone Crusher Giant, Shieldred, seems like a pretty reasonable hand. We play our tap land and pass. We get the ridge out of the play. Opponent plays Forest and passes. Could be mono green, could be Gruul again. Play that out and pass. Once again, we have no plays other than holding up removal. Opponent shows us Werewolf Pack Leader. We go ahead and Fatal Push that on end step. So it looks like we were up against Gruul again. Play out a Graveyard Trespasser, getting a presence on the board a little bit. Opponent plays another Werewolf Pack Leader. We go ahead and Fatal Push it. Do the thing. Opponent plays out a Seeker's Chariot. We go ahead and stomp one of the tokens. We go ahead and attack here, continuing to pressure their life total a little bit. Just really don't want to get into a long game with them. I think the best play here is probably Shieldred, and I agree, although we are a little bit risky to the Crone War here. Opponent takes some damage. They play Obliterating Bolt and Stomp to deal with Shieldred. Leave the cat token back, which I find interesting. And they choose not to block, which I found a little weird. Maybe they were wondering, oh, we were going to chip in with Den of the Bugbear, perhaps, so they want to leave that back. Opponent flipping the boat into play, which I find interesting, because that's one of the cards that can stabilize against us, especially since they're at 5 mana. They play Bone Crusher. They stomp the yard. They crew. Get in for 6 here. Get in for 4. We draw Castle Lockdwayne. Fire in with Hive of the Eye Tyrant. I think I missed a chance at lethal here by eating our own creatures. Opponent fires in here. With the Glutton flipped over, Graveyard Trespasser alone is going to kind of be lethal if we cast it. We don't even have to attack with Graveyard Glutton. And then we just eat our own 2 creatures and kill them. So, nice way to get on the board against Gruul, as this is definitely a matchup that is very, very tricky. Looks like we sideboarded in much the same way, although this time I did bring in all the copies of Extinction Event. Boarding on Trespasser, I'm not 100% correct, but they don't really trade up with what the opponent's doing very well. You know, they don't really brawl with a lot of what our opponent has going on, so maybe it's incorrect to board these out. But we brought in the Extinction Events, the Bank Busters, the Extinction Events, etc. We boarded out the Graveyard Trespassers, the Hitsugu, at least one of the Kroxa, and then the Thoughtseizes. Obviously can be important to snag their stuff, but they tend to play the board quite quickly, so you can often get stuck with that in your hand. So like some mid-range matchups like the mirror match, you don't always leave in things like Thoughtseize. This hand is potentially a little bit clunky. Bone Crusher Giants don't always kill things. Obviously they generally trade with most of their creatures, but they don't always kill. Like they kill the elves, they kill some of the smaller creatures like some of the tokens and such, but they don't always, the Stomp isn't always relevant. Bankbuster obviously relevant in the grinding matchups, but we could easily get run over by this hand if they have an elf, which they do. We go land, they go Werewolf Pack Leader, which we have no way to kill, unfortunately. We just stomp their elf, hope to slow down their mana development a little bit. We're going to get elfed here. Univolt hits us for 5. We play out the Bone Crusher Giant. Our opponent plays a copy of Asika's Chariot. They attack, I presume. Nope, we don't trade there. Which may have been incorrect. Oh, that was the factor. I had Extinction Event in hand, so I just wanted to nab these tokens, and Bone Crusher Giant helped stabilize the board post. That's why I did not do that. Okay, opponent's left with some elves and some copies of Mutavault. Alright, opponent fires up a Mutavault. Fires up a Mutavault. Fires up Chariot. They attack with Chariot. We choose to make the trade here. As Chariot is a little bit tricky sometimes to play against. Opponent has yet another elf. We play out a Bankbuster and hold up Stomp. I think that's incorrect here. I think I'm actually supposed to play out Bone Crusher Giant, perhaps. They attack for a bunch here. We're just kind of get chipped away as our opponent just has too much going on. We go to 5. We play Bone Crusher Giant. Dreadbore one of their tokens away. Dreadbore one of their things. They have Reckless Stormseeker. They fire everything up. Attack. We have to trade with a Stormseeker. Although it might have been correct to crew Bankbuster here rather than, I guess we did crew Bankbuster. And then kill that. Go to 1. Now we need some type of miracle to get us out of this situation. And Fatal Push isn't terrible. Dreadbore. We have Shaper's Sanctuary, so we Fatal Push their guy, and then we just die to multiple Mutavaults here. So main lands kind of showing their value for our opponent in this game, and just punishing us here. So, on to game number 3. Alright, game number 3. We are on the play. Taking a look at our opening hand. We have Removal Spell, Bankbuster, Fable, Extinction Event. All seems pretty solid. Opponent mulligan to 6. Get our tap land out of the way. Opponent goes turn 1 elf. We go turn 1 kill the elf, although Power Word Kill might have been better used elsewhere. Opponent just playing a bunch of stuff out. We get Fable the Mirror Breaker down while our opponent doesn't have anything particularly threatening on the board. They go Asika's Chariot. So at this point, Extinction Event's looking pretty nice. Just clearing out all those tokens. Pithing Needle also could be very important. Pitching a land. I attack with a token here just to get a little bit of value. They choose to, I think, trade. So maybe I'm not supposed to fire off Extinction Event at this point, which I guess I choose not to because I have Pithing Needle. Opponent gets Lovestruck Beast out there. They go to attack. I take 3 here. They play an elf. I think that makes my choice to Fatal Push the cat token. Then I go ahead and Extinction Event all their odds away, leaving them with 1 token. They play a Bone Crusher Giant. We're not in the greatest position here, but we are at relative parity. We choose to play Bankbuster and pass. They attack in here. We go ahead and kill Bone Crusher Giant. Once again, Pithing Needle kind of proving to be a godsend in some of these matchups. We draw a card. We cast a Fable. So now, whatever's stuck in their hand, they play a Hazoret, which is admittedly pretty terrifying, although it's kind of useless this turn. We pitch those cards, do the thing. Bankbuster, get a token out there. They play Heart's Desire and Lovestruck Beast. We go ahead and Fatal Push the Lovestruck Beast. And then we kind of get the Chump Blocker Extraordinaire going on here with Fable the Mirror Breaker. Opponent still can't attack or block with Hazoret. Hazoret showing to be a little bit clunky in this spot. Our opponent plays out Boat, honk, honk. Either Power Word Kill going to prove to be. I think our opponent made a mistake here. They probably should have killed Reflection. Just my opinion that they should have killed Reflection instead of Bone Crusher Giant. We hold up Sekenzen, as well as the ability to use Power Word Kill. Opponent plays the Crone War, going after the Reflection. We make a copy. They kill it. They have a choice of attacking with Hazoret or Boat. They fire a Boat. We kill it, and our opponent concedes, although are they just dead at this point? So, opponent is at 8. We have Den of the Bugbear. Yeah, I guess they are just dead on board because this kills that. We have this and this. We can crew this. Fire up Den. That's 4, 5, 6, 10. So they are just dead on board to this gameplay. So, once again, very, very tight matchup. Cards were key. Sideboard cards with thing were key. These matchups are close. What can I say? Taking a look at matchup 3. We are on the draw. Our opening hand. Once again, this Hitsugu coming back to kind of make us scratch our heads a little bit. But Power Word Kill, Graveyard Trespasser, Dreadbore. Not a terrible hand overall. Opponent goes with turn 1 Sekenzen. We just play land, pass. Turn 2. Okay. So no idea what our opponent's on. They might be on Phoenix or something at this point. We have nothing to play to the board right now. Our opponent, once again, does that. So we still have no idea what they're on, although they haven't done anything, so it's unlikely this is Phoenix at that point. We just play Graveyard Trespasser. Our opponent casts Mace Disappear. Okay, so we're up against some type of Izzet control deck. Maybe Creativity, maybe something else. Opponent plays that, looking more and more like Creativity with a particularly bad mana draw. We go ahead and run out Hitsugu because why not? We need to get some pressure on the board. Exiling Graveyard against any type of Creativity deck isn't necessarily a terrible idea. Our opponent passes back. We draw Fable the Mirror Breaker after we exile all graveyards. We play a Fable the Mirror Breaker, playing around Make Disappear, however they just have Negate. So we just sit here and do nothing, do nothing, do nothing. Opponent plays a land and passes. We draw Kroxa, which is quite nice. We just play Kroxa out, force them to discard some stuff. They choose to discard Creativity. So they are, in fact, a variant of Creativity. Then they end step kill that with Fire Impulse. And we just play this waiting game where we have nothing going on. They have nothing going on, and we draw Shieldred. They have no counterspell that's relevant. Our opponent starts taking some damage from Shieldred and passes. We continue to chip away at their life total. Hidden for 4 here. Opponent still does nothing. Graveyard Trespasser. Eat your Creativity. Not that they can flash that back anyway if they are on the Gearhulk version. Opponent plays a land and passes. They're doing a whole lot of interesting nothing. We continue to gain some life. They flip Graveyard Glutton. We continue eating their graveyard. At this point, they concede. I guess the reasoning behind this is their best bet to get back into this game is probably one of the 4 mana draw to make 2 treasure cards, and that's just lethal for them at this point because if they take 8 here, then if they draw 2 cards, they're just dead. So I'm not sure in this matchup if I ever actually see what their Creativity game into. So I don't know if this is the Gearhulk version or if this is the World Spineworm Xenagod version of the deck. That said, we do have Power Word Kill up here as well, so we weren't just likely going to get one shot killed, although if they had that plus Negate, obviously we'd be in a lot of trouble, but most of this time we're holding a Power Word Kill, so we're just not going to get one shot at, and kind of play this weird tempo game with Shieldred and Graveyard Trespasser. Alright, taking a look at sideboarding for this game. Once again, boarding out the Hitsugu, boarding out the copies of Bone Crusher Giant. So Bone Crusher Giant certainly hits harder, but does die to Fire Impulse, whereas Graveyard Trespasser at least forces the opponent to pitch a card. And then we bring in the copies of Duress, Bankbuster, Go Blank, as we're just playing against a either control-ish deck with Creativity like Gearhulks, or just the flat-out combo version with Xenagod and World Spineworm. So we're on the draw this game. we have an opening hand that was just kind of weak. It was a Braid plus Shieldred and some lands. This hand a little bit better. A couple copies of Thoughtseize, a copy of Graveyard Trespasser. Opponent plays Stormchaser Coast and passes. We play Thoughtseize here, slowing it down, taking a look at our opponent's hand. Opponent's hand is very, very greedy here. They have Secrets of the Key of the City. Basically creates a treasure token or a clue token. Spikefield Hazard, Make Disappear, Big Score, Fire Prophecy, Creativity. So it becomes a matter of, do you try to screw your opponent on mana a little bit with Spikefield Hazard here? Do you take the early counter spell to resolve your next spell, whether it be a Thoughtseize next turn or Graveyard Trespasser? Or do you just take the namesake to Creativity? I believe here I take Creativity. Just because it is obviously their namesake card. They play their land. So we still get a chance to resolve our counter spell. Play that. We take Big Score here, so we just allow them to have their counter spell, which, while it's annoying, is kind of whatever. We play out Blood Tithe to try to draw it out. They just choose to use Fire Prophecy. And then they continue to pass. Again, we kind of regret not taking that when we had the chance. Now we just have to jam threats. Force them to use their Make Disappear. Obviously, we can't play that. Opponent passes, or we pass to our opponent. They play their 4th land. We play out Reckoner Bankbuster here, or do we play? Yeah, we play Bankbuster. Draw a card, looking for a land drop. They choose, I'm guessing they're going to flash back Secrets of the Key of the City, or Secrets of the Key of the City at the end of the turn to make a bunch of clue tokens. They play Fable, so they're kind of tapped low. We use the opportunity to do that. It's possible I should have cast Dreadbore instead, just to have access to instant speed removal. We start chunking in for 4 here. Forcing the opponent to do some stuff. They discard Brother's End. They play Impulse, which I guess they don't want to blow up all their clues. And then we draw Fable, we cast Fable, it resolves. Go ahead and chunk in with Graveyard Trespasser, hold up the option to draw a card. Once again, I don't think we ever actually see what version of the deck they're on, as they play a Big Score, discarding a land. They have a bunch of tokens now. They pass the turn. We draw a Bankbuster at the end of step. Draw down the Bugbear. We draw Shieldred, pitching down the Bugbear. Go to attacks. Our opponent, I believe, chooses to trade here. Yeah, they choose. Nope. They choose to take the damage. We Dreadbore their thing. They sack a clue token, which I think is a bad time to sack it, but whatever. We resolve Shieldred, and they're in a lot of trouble from here. I think they have to untap and have Creativity immediately to have a shot. They cast Brother's End and Fire Prophecy. So they use a bunch of their cards, take some damage on the way out. They cast Impulse, and then concede because they are just dead to down the Bugbear here, or Creature plus Reckoner Bankbuster. Lots of different things killed them here, as you know, the Dying trigger, or the Fire Prophecy trigger with Shieldred. I don't know that they were counting on that doing them the damage. So, you know, they took a gamble, they lost. But, you know, sometimes we are the aggressor. That's why we're mid-range, not Rakdos control. But on to the rest of the league. All right, we're here for match number 4. We are on the draw, unfortunately. Taking a look at this opener. I have a couple removal spells. Bone Crusher Giant Shieldred seems like a reasonable hand. Opponent goes turn 1 Temple Garden. Most likely Angels at this point, though not entirely sure. Opponent goes turn 2 Youthful Valkyrie. We have no way of killing that because Power Word Kill is useless, so we have to play out Blood Tithe Harvester and pass. Opponent plays another Youthful Valkyrie and pass. Hits us for 2 and passes. We go to combat. They choose not to block. We play a Bone Crusher Giant, just kind of trying to pressure their life total. Opponent plays a 3rd copy of Youthful Valkyrie. We, Thoughtseize, take away their only castable card. Blood Tithe Harvester. Go ahead and pressure them. Hit them for 7. They choose to do nothing. We still have Power Word Kill that does nothing. They play Righteous Valkyrie. Pump up the jam. Only attack with 1 creature, leaving us potentially lethal next turn. We still can't cast anything with Power Word Kill. We kill the Righteous Valkyrie. Attack for 4. They do the thing. We go ahead and kill their thing. They, for some reason, Boseiju a token here, which just gets us ahead on mana. We then cast Shieldred. And this might potentially put us in a position to win the game. Do the thing. And we fire up Eel down the Bugbear. Okay, fire in. They have a Ganjo, kill our thing. We do that. We didn't choose to Fatal Push there, which I guess it wasn't particularly relevant. One gets to gain some life. Go to 5. Attack with the 1. We Fatal Push. They get a 1/1. We draw Kroxa. We flash back Kroxa. They die. These incidental damages from Bone Crusher Giant and Shieldred and Kroxa, they all add up. Once again, doing sideboarding, Kroxa's out. This isn't really truly an attrition matchup. Thoughtseizes, you could argue they're important against things like Shaper Sanctuary, Collected Company, Kai's Restructuring, but, you know, we choose to bring in things like a Braid, Rending Volley, Extinction Event. Bring in Reckoner Bankbuster as well, because this can be a bit of an attrition matchup. And obviously Pithing Needle doesn't really have any relevant targets, although it can shut down Resplendent Angel potentially, at least the activated ability on it. And Power Word Kill, destroy target non-angel, non-demon, non-devil, non-dragon. Their deck's all angels other than Bishop, so kind of pointless to leave it in. Our opening hand, no lands. Then we mulligan to this, which has plenty of removal, some creatures. I think we pitch the Graveyard Trespasser, which may or may not have been correct. They play Shaper Sanctuary, immediately punishing us for the draw that we had. They play Giada. We Fatal Push it. They get to draw a card. It's possible we should have held on to Fatal Push and just waited to stomp, but probably is a second Shaper Sanctuary. And the Valkyrie. So, really not in the best of shape. So we go ahead and stomp their face. Cast Bone Crusher Giant. We're choosing try not to kill their creatures if we can at all avoid it. Those of you that haven't ever played against them, that's usually a losing proposition, not killing their creatures when you have a chance, but them drawing 2 cards per thing. Not the best. So go ahead, punch in for 4. Play another Bone Crusher Giant, I presume here. Just trying to pressure them down. They have Skyclave Apparition to blow us to Kingdom Come. They get in. They should have gotten in for 4 here, I think. Just my opinion. They go for a double block instead. We kill Youthful Valkyrie. Once again, having a bunch of lands. They have Bishop. We take 2. I think we take the opportunity to draw a card. No, we don't choose to draw a card. Play out Blood Tithe Harvester here. One has Kaya's Restructuring, it looks like. Or Reconstruction. Kalia's Reconstruction. They get 1 thing off of it, but at this point, with our inability to really use removal spells, we were looking for Extinction Event here. Going to attack in, they hit it. The Extinction Event away, but they still have their 2 3-drops. They play a Resplendent Angel, chunk us for 4. Now we're really at the point where we have to start using removal spells. We draw Dreadbore, and, you know, really, Shaper Sanctuary is kind of a it can be very, very good in the matchup, but overall here, just some poor choices on my end, and we lost the game due to double Shaper Sanctuary and the very removal heavy draw against, you know, card that effectively blanks removal quite well. Looking at the opener for game 3, we have, once again, plenty of removal, Graveyard Trespasser, Shieldred. Our opponent, let's see, does not have turn 1's Shaper Sanctuary at least. We play land, pass. Opponent goes turn 1, or turn 2 Youthful Valkyrie. Just go to abrade that here. Then we get to slam Graveyard Trespasser, eat their guy, get some pressure on the battlefield. Our opponent plays Skyclave Apparition, pitches a Youthful Valkyrie to deal with it. We get to play Shieldred. Our opponent plays a Righteous Valkyrie and passes. We go ahead and attack in. They choose to block? Question mark. Trespasser and eat that. Opponent, once again, has Resplendent Angel. We go ahead and kill. Continue to pressure them. We fire at the yield Eye of the High Tyrant. Eat their graveyard. Gain a bunch of life. All they can really do is block, prevent some of the damage, and without a really good, like, Kalia's Ruined Construction or copy of Collected Company, they're in some trouble here. As we get to gain some life, we just fire in with everything. We could have obviously fired in with Hive of the Eye Tyrant here. This forces them to make some choices. They go to 4. We cast Blood Tithe Harvester and draw a card. We cast Bone Crusher Giant, Stomp, killing their Valkyrie. And our opponent untaps, apparently doesn't draw anything relevant, and get a win over Angels, despite them having some of their better draws. So, this is how Rakdos gets it done in that matchup. Alright, back for match number 5. Taking a look at our opening hand. 1 land, bunch of spells. This is obviously Mulligan. We see a hand of Fable, Misery Shadow, some lands. I think we put back the Sulphurous Springs here. And see what we're up against. It goes Blooming Marsh, so most likely Greasefang. Not the best hand against Greasefang, but it's fine. Opponent goes Stitcher's Supplier. Mills nothing of relevance, at least not immediately anyway. They could always use something like a Reanimation spell to bring back Rafine's Informant, but we get Misery Shadow out there, which makes their Stitcher's Supplier almost less than useless. We have to play this kind of weird waiting game here because they could have Grizzly Salvage into Greasefang. We kind of have to hold up mana with the Power Word Kill. They have Greasefang, putting a Greasefang in the graveyard. They attack us, getting some damage. Then I presume they're going to play a Chariot here. We go ahead and I'm guessing Fatal Push one of the tokens at the end step. Yep. Fatal Push one of the tokens. We go ahead and Thoughtseize them, see Greasefang, take Greasefang. And we still have to hold up removal because of Eldritch Evolution, unfortunately. Our opponent plays nothing. Just Eldritch Evolution to go grab Greasefang. They go to attack. We kill the token just to avoid them getting any leverage. Once again, this is a bit of a gamble, but play Fable out. Hold back Misery's Shadow so we can trade with Sika's Chariot. They Thoughtseize us. We just stomp their face. They take some damage. Crew the Chariot. They get to fire in here. We double block because of Misery's Shadow. This will be exiled, meaning their Greasefang still has nothing going on with it, and they draw land. We go ahead and pitch this Sulphurous Springs, draw another Fable, play out Fable. Maybe we're supposed to play Bone Crusher Giant there, but I'm fine taking 4 at this point, especially if that's all they're doing. Whatever they drew didn't seem to be relevant. We get Fable rolling, we have a chance to discard, but we just play out Blood Tithe Harvester, Go ahead and, I believe, play Bone Crusher Giant after we attack. Put them to 12. Play Bone Crusher Giant. And pass the turn. Does our opponent top deck? They have a Boseiju, which allows us to get a land. They go ahead and do nothing. Go ahead and play our land out, draw a card. Another Bone Crusher Giant, just get in for 6 here. Our opponent chooses to block, they lose their guy. We just use the Blood Tithe and Stomp to kill that, so they can't stay away to bring it back. They put up our Hylian in the graveyard. And if they would have hit another can't stay away or an untapped land, perhaps there we die, but, you know, sometimes these matchups are just determined by just that tiny little bit of edges. Just that tiny little bit. Alright, taking a look at our sideboarding. We leave the Hitsugu in for once. Board out the Croxes because we really don't want to enable them pitching. Might be incorrect to board out Thoughtseize, but I figured we had enough other things to bring in. We brought in a couple copies of Extinction Event. We brought in a couple copies of Go Blank. In hindsight, should have brought in the Rending Volley, but did not. And we also brought in the copies of Abrades, boarded out a Fable and the Mirror Breaker. And so that said, let's get into the second game and see how it goes. Opening hand. We have a Hitsugu, we have some removal spells, we have Graveyard Trespasser. Seems like just about everything we want. When it goes turn 1 Thoughtseize, takes our Graveyard Trespasser. We go turn 1 that, so we can go that into Castle Lochwain into Haunted Ridge. Opponent Thoughtseizes, takes the Hitsugu. Now they just have to fight through removal spells. Our opponent goes turn Raffine's Informant, pitches Asika's Chariot. Scary, but not impossible to beat. Go ahead and kill that, keep the pressure off the board. Holding up this with another Raffine's Informant, pitching a Grizzly Salvage, which they seem to be trapped on. They seem to be trapped on green mana here. They're pitching a Grizzly Salvage. They hit us for 3 here. We're still not going to use Power Word Kill. Then they have the green mana. They pitch some stuff. Have a Parhelion in the graveyard now, as well as a Greasefang. We go ahead and draw a card at the cost of some life. Possibly should have played out Hive of the Eye Tyrant, but I guess I wanted to get Fable online and still hold up Power Word Kill. Once again, kind of keeping this in line. Our opponent goes to combat. They attack. I'll make that trade every day. So our life total is getting low. And it has Knight of Om to blow up the Fable. Curious card to bring in that you'd go with that. We play Go Blank here, forcing them to pitch their hand. Then we just Dreadbore the Knight of Om. I probably should have Dreadbored the Knight first. Not that it makes a ton of difference, but Can't Stay Away is a card in their deck that they could get some value off of potentially. We just go ahead and fire up Hive of the Eye Tyrant, as they've got nothing going on. So they can't. It would really take like Grizzly Salvage into Greasefang for us to really be punished by that line. But I think at that point, if they get whatever, then they just evolution for Sheoldred. We go ahead, untap, Power Word Kill the Sheoldred. I guess we take the damage. Power Word Kill the Sheoldred. Fire up Den of the Bugbear is a little bit more damage. Just trying to get the game over as quickly as possible. Opponents fire up Den again. Get them dead. Now they're under pressure, forced to draw something relevant. And they draw a Satyr Wayfinder. Putting a bunch of stuff in the graveyard. We go ahead and Fatal Push their Satyr Wayfinder. They have no chump blocker, and then they're just dead to Den of the Bugbear next turn. So fire up Den. Opponent has Boseiju to buy themselves some time. So I shouldn't have tapped a Hive, I guess. But I think at this point, play out Blood Tithe Harvester. Another thing I could have done is I could have shocked in or just gotten a basic. That way we weren't just dead to Grizzly Salvage into Parhelion. certainly a card, shot, getting a land or getting a swamp would have allowed us to sacrifice the blood token and still have Fatal Push up potentially. So, small mistakes that could have easily cost us games here and there. A lot of these games are very close. So, as you see, even when you 5-0 with Rakdos, there are plenty of things that can go wrong, and it does take a good bit of fortune in addition to good play. So, see you in a sec for the wrap-up. Alright, rule number 1, whenever you're entering a deck list, make sure your cards are in the right location. So, this Itsugu who consumes all should be in the sideboard. This list is largely based on the work of Misplaced Ginger. He is definitely the go-to Rakdos expert, or at least one of them. There might be others out there that I'm not aware of. He's the most high-profile one anyway. As far as the list, Thoughtseize, Fatal Push, the works. Power Word Kills kind of taken the place as the premier instant speed removal. Obviously, you have options like Go for the Throat, Heartless Act, etc. Power Word Kill does have drawbacks in some matchups, mainly against Rakdos Sacrifice and against Angels, as a lot of the cards you want to kill in the Rakdos or Jund Sacrifice matchup are either Demons or Devils or Dragons. But beyond that, it's one of the better removal spells in the format. The reason you don't play Go for the Throat, I would presume, is things like Sky Sovereign and such, which can be problematic and are important cards to kill at instant speed. And then, beyond that, the usual Blood Tithe Harvester, Misery Shadow as your premier 2-drops. Croxa when you need some ways to play attrition-y matchups. 4 copies of Fable, but one of the best cards in the deck, maybe outside of Shouldred. Bone Crusher Giant, Utility All-Star, kills things, is a 4/3 beatdown. Don't forget the damage clause on removing it as well. Graveyard Trespasser, very good in a lot of situations, especially good in matchups where you need to gain some life against decks like Mono Red or Humans. Also very good against deck as a slower form of Graveyard Hate against decks like Greasefang. Sideboard options, Bankbuster. This is kind of your premier grindy card anymore. Sometimes you'll see 2 or 3. Pithing Needle. I know Ginger in some of his more recent lists is down to 1. I've really liked the addition of 2 of these, simply because it shuts down so many things that are annoying, whether it be Planeswalkers out of blue-white control, whether it be vehicles out of Greasefang, whether it be vehicles out of Gruul Vehicles, whether it be something like Oven, or Witch's Oven, etc. Just a lot of things that shuts down, forces us to not devote resources to destroying every single copy, etc. Hitsugu, not been the hugest fan of this card. It's mainly here for Rakdos Sacrifice. Not a matchup you see a lot. Can have some utility against decks like Humans, etc. And has some utility against Greasefang and Izzet Phoenix. But this is primarily here for copies of Sacrifice, but does have utility in other matches. Abrade, utility removal all-star, kills vehicles, etc. Running Volley. This is supposed to come in against Greasefang. It didn't. Supposed to come in against Humans, supposed to come in against Angels. So, very good spot removal spell. Extinction Event, you need 2 or 3 of them. Don't leave home without them. A bunch of creature decks, just important. Go blank, grinding matchups, graveyard-based matchups, you name it. So, control matchups, blue-white control, Izzet Phoenix, etc. And then Duress when you just need a little bit more oomph to punch through a bunch of counter spells or break up combo decks like Lotus Field Combo. So, first foray into modern, or not modern, into Pioneer, into something other than Lotus Field. Obviously, this is a deck that I've played quite a bit in Explore, so I have quite a bit of reps with the deck, and also have watched a lot of Misplaced Ginger. Certainly helps out a lot. But remember, kids, sometimes you need to check your sideboard before entering your decks. But that said, hopefully you enjoy this kind of playthrough content, and hopefully now that I have Mana Triggers back, at least for a little bit, we'll give it a trial run and see how some of the gameplay videos do on the channel. But that said, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe if you like Pioneer content, and hope to see you for the next video.